Welcome back to the Elise Circle podcast, where we help women in perimenopause and menopause thrive unapologetically from the inside out. All right, let's dig into that hot topic that I've been getting so much love and hate, I guess, on my reels and Instagram, which is stress making you fat in perimenopause? Maybe, probably not. Not as much as you think it is. So let's talk a little bit about stress and then a little bit about how to help you so that after you listen to this episode, you can leave feeling maybe a little bit more understanding of what is happening to your body and then how to manage your energy a little bit better. So, all right, let's jump right in. There's a lot of talk out there about cortisol and the spikes of cortisol and why cortisol is so bad, and cortisol contributes to belly fat, and we have more cortisol in perimenopause and menopause, and everything you do is going to cause more cortisol, like your workouts or your HIIT or your coffee first thing in the morning. Oh my God, don't do that. And there's so much stigma and nuances out there, and I'm gonna just call bullshit. Again, I'm here to keep things simple as fuck for you, and I agree with some of it. I'm not saying that like you might have dysregulated cortisol. Um, I don't know you, but you might. But chances are, you got other reasons why you gained weight. So let's stop hating on stress. But let me just kind of simplify things a little bit and back up. Okay, so cortisol is a hormone that is produced by the adrenal glands that sit on your kidneys, and we need cortisol. Y'all, we need it. It is a muscle building hormone, and we just really like to demonize it because when people think of cortisol, they think of stress, and stress is bad, but we need stress. It helps us wake up in the morning. If you don't have cortisol, you're going to die. So let's stop demonizing it first and foremost and just really get an understanding of what happens. So, what happens in the morning, it's called the dawn effect, and it typically happens around 4 or 4:30 in the morning, where your cortisol levels start to go up, and that wakes you up in the morning at like 6 or 7 depending on when you get up. I get up at 5, so my dawn effect might be a little bit earlier. How do I know this so well? I mean, my son has type 1 diabetes. I eat, sleep, and breathe that fucking dawn effect. So for my son Owen, he has type 1 diabetes since he's age 2. He's almost 12. When his cortisol spikes, it also will it will break down blood glucose so that it will break down glucose so that it goes into the bloodstream to spike up your blood sugar so that you can go do shit. All right. So think of it as your flight or fight hormone that is being released, and then blood sugars go up. So anytime that Owen or a diabetic body is stressed, you're going to see a rise in blood sugar. So for Owen, when he's got that dawn effect at like 4 o'clock in the morning, his blood sugar spikes. And so he's on an insulin pump, and we can change his basal rates. That means like his drip of insulin, he gets more insulin starting at 4:30 in the morning. It actually jumps. It jumps, I think, from 0.2 to like 0.8. That's how strong of the effect of cortisol is in his tiny little body. So you can imagine your body in a normal, quote unquote, what the fuck does that mean? In an optimal functioning body is going to work the same. Now, what happens at night is that like melatonin secretes and gets you sleepy. And so that goes up, and cortisol comes down so that you fall asleep. And then in the morning, cortisol then starts to rise, and melatonin goes down. Did I say serotonin? I meant melatonin. I apologize. Melatonin goes up at night to get you sleepy and then comes back down at night in the morning. Oh my God, I'm all over the place today. You get what I'm trying to say. I don't want to get too techie. I will do that in another podcast. Chances are you don't need to get this deep in the information. All right. So, what happens in perimenopause? All right. What happens in perimenopause is we become more stress resistant. So, progesterone and estrogen are starting to fall. First with progesterone, and then estrogen falls right behind it. And estrogen protects us from stress. We're like chilled. And so does progesterone, right? Think of those hormones as being like totally chilled, like Bob Marley style, like don't worry about a thing. Like everything is going to literally be all right until perimenopause hits. And so you all of a sudden feel like you can't handle things the way you used to. Things might bother you faster. quicker. They might irritate you more. That chewing that your partner does, you just want to stab him in the eye, right? Someone cuts you off in the middle of traffic and you want to smash your car into theirs. And you're like, where did all this come from? That is because those hormones are falling and your stress protection that you had before isn't there anymore. So it's going to feel like raw and it's going to hit you. So we're more hypersensitive to stress. We're not as resilient anymore to it. Okay. It's going to affect us. So that's number one. Number two is that life gets fucking lifey and you're likely juggling a lot more things now than ever before. Bigger kid, bigger problem. Taking care of your parents potentially, or you're worried about their health. Maybe you're running a business like me. Maybe you're entering a new job or a new relationship. Maybe you're having an identity crisis. Maybe you always were a stay-at-home mom and your kids have left the house. Maybe you have always liked one thing and now you don't. And you're just like, who the fuck am I? I don't recognize myself anymore. Whatever it is, life is changing. And you're likely juggling a lot more things than you've ever juggled before. And burning the candle at both ends just doesn't work for you anymore. And you feel like your capacity for life is just gone. You're like, I cannot handle things anymore. Who am I? I used to be able to handle all the things. I used to run a business, run a family, and still have time to be the good wife, the sexy wife, have sex all the time. And you're like, I don't even want it. I don't even want to get naked. Okay. So there's a lot of things that are happening both hormonally and in your habits. And if you haven't heard my podcast on habits versus hormones, you're going to want to go ahead and listen to that one. It's a good one too. But both things are starting to change. Okay. And then cortisol. So cortisol starts to get dysregulated as stress gets high and chronic. So let me just pause. It's going to get confusing now, and I don't want to keep it confusing. Everybody's response to stress is different. If your house burns down and your partner leaves you, that could be a lot of stress for one person, or another person can look at it and be like, fucking finally, fresh start. I'm out of here. So I can't say that certain things are going to be stressful for you. If you are leaving a relationship or a job or you have a disagreement with a child, your parent leaves you or is ill or passes away, that might affect you differently than someone else. So your acute stress might be one thing, but when you keep it going, it becomes chronic. So how much chronic stress is your body under? And I'm going to use me as an example because when Owen was diagnosed with diabetes when was he diagnosed? So we're hitting on 10 years. So what is that? 2015, he was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And I just absorbed it all. I was in go mode, flight or flight mode. My 2-year-old was diagnosed with this illness that I now had to learn about insulin, carb ratios, how to keep him safe. And I had to fucking do it immediately with insulin injections. Otherwise he wasn't going to live. And my life became in real time, basically unpredictable. And I always told people unless it's blood sugar related, you have my full attention. And it was really hard because I'm juggling 3 kids and I have to tell my other kids that they have to stop talking because I have to deal with blood sugar. And if that's not a pain in the heart for any parent to say to their child, I have to go to the other kid right now because what they're experiencing is severe, it's really hard and it affects the whole family. And so I had to deal with that. I had to deal with the guilt of being able to eat whatever I wanted without having to be responsible, quote unquote, where Owen will never be able to do that. That was also really hard for me. I remember for the first few months, I used to hide in my cupboard. That's actually probably, now that I think about it, where the hiding in the chips thing came from. But I used to hide because I just didn't feel it was fair for him to see me eat. And then I would cry because I was like, he can't do that. He has to be responsible with food. And it was just this cycle of blame. And did he get this from me? Because I have an autoimmune disease. And Albert, said it as a joke when he was first diagnosed. He got this from you. And you're like, you're autoimmune. And I was just I was devastated. I was like, oh my God, I gave this to my kid. And there was just awful. It was not a great time. Meanwhile, while this was happening, and I'm trying to learn, I am also rallying together with other moms of kids with type 1 to put on the biggest fucking event. We did an event for JDRF and we collected $70,000 for the JDRF. So that was great timing. And I decided to not just run a 30K marathon or a 30K race, but also train for a marathon that same year. So that next year. So you can imagine for the next 12 to 15 months, I was just in complete go mode, burning the candle at both ends. And That's what sent me to the hospital not once, but twice with extreme burnout. Now, I wouldn't be able to do all that and run a business. I would have probably killed myself or given myself a heart attack and dropped dead. I'm not kidding. My naturopath looked me dead in the eye and she said, "You are on the trajectory for a heart attack right now if you don't make some serious changes." And I wasn't even in perimenopause at the time. So you can imagine right now the amount of stress that I deal with every single day is now chronic and part of my life. My sleep is always unpredictable. My worry is next level, right? I don't just worry about my kid having a good day at school and like passing their tests and doing all that. I worry about, do they have enough treatments? If they're playing at their friend's house, does the friends know what to look for low blood sugars? Is Owen going to be distracted when he's on the ice? Is his blood sugar going to go too high because he's too excited or he's too nervous? And cortisol starting to spike. So it is a constant stress for me that I have to, like life or death for me, make sure that I regulate the other areas of my life that I have control of my energy. Okay. And that means like, I don't have time for bullshit. Surface level friendships just don't work for me anymore. All my friends that I stay connected with are deep rooted and deep love. They are like family. I sometimes need to, I call it like go to my island for a little bit where I need to just like take some space for myself, where I might say to my kids, it's 8:00, I'm getting into bed. I love you. And I just need to be alone, read a book, watch some TV, just like disconnect for a little bit, just to kind of regroup. I need to travel by myself, which I love doing. And mostly that's for work. And that kind of gives me a little bit of a reset. But I need to know myself and how to manage that, because that's not going to change. And yet I sit before you with pretty lean physique, and yeah, you can see most of my abs. So with my level of stress, if I said stress makes you fat and gives you belly fat, I should have a lot of belly fat in theory, correct? Although what I do is manage the other areas of my life. Plus I understand what stress is. Okay. So when we add stress into perimenopause, we start knocking out hormones faster off balance. So think of it as your hormones as a symphony. And imagine like progesterone, for example, is like the drums. And I don't know, estrogen is like, I don't know why I always say this, it's the triangle. I think because when I was at Earl Hague and I was like in the choir and I would sing, there was like one person with a triangle that like banged it like once the entire song. And I was like, how does she feel about just standing with a fucking triangle? But I digress. If you play the triangle, hats off to you. But anyways, imagine estrogen is the triangle, progesterone is the drum, and you're hearing a symphony, and all of a sudden like stress is like coming in to play. You're going to hear like a lot of drum, and you're going to be like, holy fuck, why do I hear only drums? Or that fucking triangle is just ding, 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 like constantly, right? That's what happens. That's what stress does to the other hormones. It sends it off. Also thyroid. So pretend, thyroid, I don't know, is the bass, or, and all you hear is that fucking bass, and, or you're missing the bass and you're like, something feels weird. So it's going to throw off your thyroid. It's going to throw off your sex hormones. It's going to throw off your leptin, your ghrelin. Those are your hunger and your satiety hormones. And everything in the symphony is just not going to sound good anymore. And you're going to think, what is it? Oh my God, I need to do a flush. I need to do a cleanse. I need to lose weight. No, you need to manage your stress. How do we manage stress? Okay. Managing stress in perimenopause is very different, because before, when you were more stress resilient because of that beautiful estrogen pumping through your veins, you might have been able to take a bath, have a glass of wine, chill out with some friends, and be fine. That shit don't fly anymore. You need to really put yourself in that sympathetic nervous system, calm that fight or flight. And that's really hard. Best ways to do that: sunlight in your face the first 15 minutes of the day. Walking in nature. So one thing I like to say to our clients is hug a fucking tree, but I mean it. Like take off your shoes and walk barefoot on the grass. And there's nothing more grounding than feeling your feet on the grass. That is so good for your nervous system. And yeah, you know what? Hug a tree, send me a picture. I want to see it. Get really into nature. You can take a bath, anything that puts you into parasympathetic mode, laughing. I say like watching TV and chilling out or reading a book, but just be careful. Like we don't want too much stimulation. So like nothing too sexy or nothing that is going to make you scared or like excited like too much. We just want to keep you totally calm. However, if you do get a little sexy, that's really great, because one of the best ways to put yourself in a parasympathetic state is through orgasm, whether alone or with your partner. And I talked about this a little bit on the HRT podcast. So if you haven't listened to that one, go ahead and catch it. We talk all about sex and the benefits of orgasms, whether alone or with your partner. But if you haven't tried it on your own, I highly recommend it. Be your best friend. Go ahead and do it. Those are going to be the best ways. And then of course, yes, dialing in your nutrition, watching the processed sugars, the fats, all the foods that have, high hydrogenation in them, high sugars, low fiber. Anything that's going to irritate the gut is going to send yourself into that more sympathetic mode or the fight or fight mode. Okay. So it's not so much that stress is making you fat, but what else does stress do? Stress actually does put weight on your body for a short period of time. It doesn't put fat on your body. It puts weight on the scale through inflammation. So if you have a really heavy or hard workout, water is going to enter through the cells and you're going to experience a little bit of inflammation. That's normal. It's going to go down. So if you put stress onto your body, like I had a massage last night, I'm a little inflamed today, totally normal. Weight's a little bit up, totally normal, but I didn't gain fat. Okay. And that will come down. Um, a lot of people are like, well, I'm just so stressed. And so, like I'm put on so much weight. I'm like, no, because we have people that are like prisoners of war and they are stressed as fuck and they're not gaining weight. So it's not a superpower that you have. But I want to just say that you might be gaining weight when you're stressed, because when you're stressed, you might be a little bit lazier with your nutrition. You might not realize all the foods that you put in your mouth. You might not feel as intentional with those bites, licks, and tastes that I've talked about on prior episodes as well. So gaining weight, yes, can be easier, but that doesn't mean that if you're in a stress state that you automatically are going to gain belly fat or that you will not lose weight. So if I were to put a little bow on this whole episode today and say, it's okay if you're stressed. Obviously, I want you to be less stressed, but maybe your life is like mine where you're dealing with a lot of shit. You're going to have to self-manage your energy in different areas of your life. Because I'd say probably about 90% of women who come to me for help say their energy is tanked. And before they even want to lose weight, because they do, they're like, if you can just get my energy back, I will be happy. I will feel like myself again. And so what we really need to do is dial in nutrition, dial in your movement, dial in that sleep and stress management. And I promise you, the very first thing that you're going to notice is that increase in energy. But please protect your energy. Be careful who you spend time with. Be careful who you give it to. Be careful what information you listen to out there, because it all affects your energy. And I literally just dropped an episode on it that this week, which is your diet is more than just what you eat. It is your environment. And if you haven't listened to that episode, go ahead. I know that's resonated with a lot of you already. So I don't want you to blame stress, but I want you to be intentional with your stress management, because now more than ever, shit's going to affect you a little bit differently. All right. I hope this helps. If you want to learn more about stress, go ahead, shoot me an email. I'd love to hear from you. I'm going to link this all below. If you want to watch this on YouTube, go ahead and watch my YouTube channel. That's also linked below. And of course, share this on social. Let me know how this lands with you. Tag me so that I can help support you. And I will see you on the next one.